is Tuesday, and we have another session of the MSP initiative. Today, we have Adam from Sierra Pacific Consulting as part of the show today. Adam, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. Love being here. It's awesome.
Awesome. So where are you based out of?
I am based out of Fresno, California, and been in the industry a long time.
Okay. Why don't we just pivot into that? Why don't you give everybody a bit of like professional background, if you would? Where you started, how do you get to today?
Oh, how I get to today? Whew. Sit back. So started my own MSP business back in 2002. We scaled it pretty nice size. We got ConnectWise. I'm ConnectWise consultant and got ConnectWise in 2006 in my MSP business. Struggled implementing it, struggled with kind of getting it integrated into all of our business processes greatly, and failed a lot. So what we did was, and what I did was take initiative and start building out processes, building out from sales, service, finance, everything, and found my passion, if you will. So I kind of worked myself in 2012, kind of worked myself into ConnectWise Consulting area and started doing it while I owned my MSP business. And then 2016, decided to sell my MSP business and start Sierra Pacific Consulting, because one foot was on the boat, one foot was on the dock, and the consulting was taking off. And I was like, hey, I absolutely found my passion and love. And I just love helping other owners, managers, leaders in the industry, getting the most out of the tool set that they have in their business.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great story. So let's rewind for a second. How big was your MSP when you sold?
I think we had 15 employees. It was, I think, revenue about 2 million-ish.
Okay. And how many companies, endpoints approximately?
Ooh, I was more on the services side. I would say probably about 1,000 endpoints. It wasn't too many.
Okay, cool. So what was so were you, when you said you were on the services side, were you service desk manager?
I was on the sales side of things. I was not on the services side of things.
Okay. So you're doing sales.
Yeah.
All right. That's good. Cause I would say a lot of MSPs generally struggle with sales. So we'll ask a couple questions about that. So let me ask you, let me break out of the gate and ask some pretty straightforward questions, because frankly, that's how we like to do things. MSPs largely, for whatever reason, maybe maturity level plays a part in this, and size for sure. They jump from tool to tool to tool because they find that some of these tools out there are just too complex, cumbersome, big. I'm sure I could throw another couple of words in there, but it feels like they spend more time getting the tool to work for them than them actually getting, efficiency, speed, and like actually concentrate on the work at hand. So with that being said, what are the top 2-3 things that come to your top of your head on why people fail with their tools?
I think number one, shiny object syndrome when they're at freaking trade shows. Dude, stop. They're doing these dog and pony shows and they go and just buy the tool immediately. It's like they don't think about how to actually integrate it in their business. Like, oh, it looks really cool. I think my clients will like that. Well, did you survey your clients? Did you think about, the client experience? Those type of things, and that's the one thing that just irks me. Guess what? I am guilty of it too. Absolutely guilty of it as well.
You admit that.
Yeah. And it's, so that's number one, dealing with the trade show. And it's one that if you go look at your tool stack and you go look at the cost, it's just death by 1,000 cuts, right?
I agree. I've said it on previous MSP initiative shows. I call it the IT Nation swipe your credit card fatigue syndrome, where you literally are just like your credit card melts before you get to the end of the show floor, and 6 months later you're canceling a whole bunch of stuff because you never had time to put it together, kind of thing.
That's exactly right. Yep, we've all been there, and before they have those show specials, they have those things. Before you get down that, I always, when I go to trade shows, I go with an initiative to say, I have this problem in my business. What can I solve it with? nobody just like, they see this shiny thing. I go, oh, that might be able to solve this problem. It's like, well, what features you're looking for? What are the kind of benefits so you have
Well,
to do that.
isn't the shine, sorry to kind of cut your top three down, but we'll circle back to it in a second. Isn't part of the problem with Melt credit card, IT Nation walking down the aisle syndrome because the actual tool itself is missing a feature, a function? It's difficult in a certain area, right? Usually that's why you would get all these things, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. But then you already have another tool that might do it. And it's like, did you spend enough time on your existing tool to figure out the tool? Like, that's one of the things. That's another thing getting down is you're not spending enough time on your own tools to know exactly what it all can fully do.
No, fair, fair. I feel like people start off with their ticketing system and they attach naturally an RMM, right? And then, some sort of network monitoring or cloud services monitoring, and then like explodes from there, right? And I mean, like all the bells and the whistles,
It does. I speak with prospects daily that, love ConnectWise. Then, they get it implemented in their business. Then 3 years later, they, hate ConnectWise and they jump back into, another vendor. Then they're like, well, wait a second, it doesn't do this. Then they jump back into ConnectWise world. It's like, stop doing those shifts. Just, is it a real true issue that you're actually experiencing? What are some workarounds, for solving those particular issues? And it's just taking the time and pausing and not knee-jerk reactions to what's happening. That's a very common thing we see.
Okay, so let's recap. One is too many tools too fast, bolting on at the wrong time. Two is the system was never implemented properly to begin with, right? So they never get the car running to get all the accessories to make sense. What's the third thing?
Third thing, let's see, man.
There's a lot to choose from. Just narrow it down.
Narrow it down. So the original question, I'm trying to go back to the original question to recap the original
reasons why people fail with their tools.
The implementation can explode further. It's just not taking enough time in the implementation, and also the cost about properly implementing it, but also customer education, educating your clients how to I love Connect Booster. One of my best tools, best partner in the marketplace right now. Awesome vendor. And a lot of people come to us and it's like, hey, we have this tool and it's just not being used. It's like it's implemented. Taking the time to properly, release to the clients, do a client notification, teach and educate the clients. A lot less time gets spent there. Quarterly business reviews. A lot of people just like, okay, I'll do it, but never actually get down to doing it.
It's not just client education. It could be that the internal staff was never educated well properly either, right?
For sure, yeah. There's a difference, from, being so many tools and just the features. Then you have the implementation of it, but then the education of it, the rollout of doing it. I think that that's really important. It's probably one of the most critical steps. And I think of that from the business side of things, rather than the technical details of things. Like, how are we going to do this with our clients? How are we going to teach them, and what feature does it bring to them?
So let me jump off of that for a second. I feel like, and again, size and maturity of business applies, that the implementation, once you sign up for a core system, right? Ticketing, sales, marketing, monitoring, whatever it is, I feel like too much is left to the buyer, right? Too much is left to the MSP in this case to go through, whether they be blueprints, setup instructions, videos, and depending on how quickly and how often these companies update their documentation, I feel like a lot of guys are like, hey, I'm technical. Let me break it out. Let me figure it out myself. Let me get it running. And then they get to a hiccup. And then that's where the breakdown occurs in the beginning, right? Like there's just too much self-servicing and not enough, hey, let's talk about your business first. Let's understand your journey, how you do things internally, how your customers work with you. And then let's figure out how to get the system to fit you rather than you fitting the system. Am I wrong? Am I
Yeah,
off?
dude, that is spot on. That's what we try to do day in, day out. That's what we coach on, quite a bit is just, it's constant, this, hey, I have this tool stack and let's go implement it. Okay. And then you have this guy who doesn't have its billable the utilization needs to be up. And then he doesn't have the time to dedicate to it. He doesn't have the passion or the drive because he doesn't know the results of it. Right. And so you need somebody in that role to drive that project to,
So how much time? So if I'm an MSP, I'm deciding I'm switching tools, or I'm reevaluating my tool. I want to re-implement my tool. Maybe I'm buying for the first time. Many situations. How much time and how long should I expect a proper implementation of my system?
whew, that's a loaded question, man.
Let's even qualify it. Let's say I'm a 10-man or below, or even if you want to go a step below, let's say I'm a 5-man or below MSP, right?
Yeah, so it varies depending on the tool you're implementing, right? And that's why it's like, wow, there's so much. It's like, I'll give, I'm trying to think of a tool, purchasing. So we operate under EOS traction, right? And so we do nothing. We have initiatives, right? So our initiatives are quarterly rocks. Before we buy any tool, we actually have to go through an issues track, if you will. Then basically we have to discuss it. So there is literally just a discovery. It's at least a 3-month period.
Okay. All right. That's the number.
And so it does move a little bit slower. Some things can move a little bit faster depending on, how complicated the tool might be. I will say, for like ConnectWise application, you should be spending 6 months in like, hey, does this fit my business? Is this right? You should be spending like a lot of time because it's going to be the tool, the foundation to your business. That's like an extreme case. Now think of that. I mean, it's the foundation to your business, right? Whereas an RMM tool that you bolt onto that, it's probably going to be a 3-month window. It is critical to the performance, but you have to just think about all the different nuances that come with it. Who's going to own it, right? Who's going to be the champion of it, but internally, but also who's going to be champion of it externally? Is it going to, what's the cost up to it? All those questions need to be asked, right?
No, fair enough. I find too many times somebody bought it and the people that were there in the beginning disappear through the process. And then all of a sudden the train's off the rails, right? Like a service desk manager disappears, or you had a lead guy on it and he disappeared, or whatever the situation, right? Like, and then I can't tell you how many times I've heard, yeah, I signed up for this 3 years ago. I never got it set up. And I'm like, 3 years? Who pays for something for 3 years? You never turned the ignition on. I don't get it.
Yeah. We definitely, I mean, we run into that all the time, and there's some scenarios that are paying for some pretty expensive tools and like, oh yeah, we just now decided to implement it. It's like, you've been paying for it for 2 years. And it's like, it's pretty costly to some of these organizations. It's like, at the same time, it's that, hey, I want to swipe that card at that trade show. And that's where it's like, before you go to, I'll kind of take it back a little, before you go to those trade shows, have an agenda. You should have spent some time prior to that trade show. Hey, I know that I'm just going to use ConnectWise World because that's the world I work in. IT Nation Explore, and typically June, July, it's more technical. It's a more tool-centric show. I know that with that show's coming up, great. I know they're going to do a lot of dog and pony stuff. Here's what I'm looking for. And you can scale up to that, when you get up to that point of the show, hey, I'm looking for this specific thing to solve this specific problem. So you've done that discovery. Okay, does it check those boxes that you guys are wanting during that 3-month initiative?
So with all the MSPs that you're consulting with right now, and I'm sure different size, different shapes, different people, right? How often and how important does the topic of security come up?
Every call, or not every call, but every client comes up. We perform an assessment in every area, and security is our number one area we perform the assessment on, for sure.
Okay, so like We're seeing a lot of headlines about security stuff, right? People are concerned. Hey,
Don't
one
set me up.
one MSP can root for the rest of us, right? You hear about
Yeah.
something, like their customers getting ransomware, like 24 customers, one MSP. Was it their tools, right? These are big, like hairy concerns, right? Because now you're like, well, wait a minute. Are my tools the back door for the bad guys to get into my customer, right? So like, this is not a small topic, I think.
No, it's definitely not a small topic, and it's a topic for. I do ConnectWise consulting, so it's a topic of a road that's long traveled and has lots of ups and downs, to say. So um, every
Well,
time we go and
let me even start here, right? Like when you go to bolt on these third-party tools together, right? You know, you swipe the card, you start, bolting on all the accessories, right? Like even the connection, right? Whether it's an API user or the integration user, whatever you want to call it, right? That link between your tools to get them to talk. I mean, how often and how hard is it to actually get permissions like filtered down to a safe level?
um, once again, this is depending on the implementation, depending on the software. Once again, during that initial discovery, that's why we take that time. Is during that discovery phase of the tool that you want to select, you have to look at your foundation. Okay, I have this software that's in my business today.
Mhm.
Then, does that software have a marketplace? Does that software have really nice integration? Does that software have a group on, social platforms that you can go query, like, hey, how well does this integrate? Um, so before even getting to that point, and the security should have those answers already part of your discovery, right? Now, every tool is different, and this is where it's like, I know in the ConnectWise world, it's all API keys, right? And it was some other integration passwords in the past. There's single sign-on and all this other things going on right now. It's definitely a concern. I don't know. I mean, we try to fit the security in the initial discovery. Like, hey, does it have Active Directory sync, for those single sign-on things? So,
Got it. So single sign-on obviously is like the common denominator, and then it gets more granular from there, I assume.
yeah, exactly. It's like, hey, does it integrate well? And those are the questions I asked in my discovery before. And some companies just don't do that. They're just like, okay, I'll buy. Well, without thinking of how does it integrate in? So,
Okay. So you were doing sales in your MSP before it sold. Now you're doing consulting. I mean, a constant gripe, I would say, for a lot of these, I'm going to say PSAs because that's what we're on right now,
yep,
is that they're not strong on sales marketing, right? They're
yep.
meant for service delivery, ticketing, projects, but when it comes to marketing, call downs, drip campaigns, prospecting, it's just not there. Am I wrong or am I right?
You're pretty spot on. There are tools out in the marketplace, and I'll just name a few like HubSpot, Salesforce, that are really awesome. Infusionsoft is another one, um, that are really awesome at doing the marketing piece, generating those leads, those hand raisers, right? Um, that's really awesome tools. ConnectWise, and not being on them, but Autotask, and they fail in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to obviously integrate those platforms in to get the best of both worlds, right? Because we feel one software does integrate it does the sales aspect because they have a quoting tool combined with it, and generating that pipeline. Then we do send that pipeline back into our marketing tool, so they see, hey, what is my value of that lead, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once again, before we buy that tool, we're doing that discovery. What does that look like? That's why, when you initially was shocked of it takes 3 months, it's like, well, you have to ask yourself all these questions, and every department is different.
Yeah. So what's the workflow then, right? Let's say, I use HubSpot here, right? So I'm a HubSpot guy, but I know there's a lot of popular tools out there. At what point, as I'm working my prospect or my sales flow, right, my pipeline, does that transference occur where I'm working it out of the alternate system, right? Like, am I doing quoting here, or am I not passing it over to my service delivery system until they're assigned customer, right? Like, give me your ideal workflow then.
Using specific vendors.
Let's just say HubSpot and ConnectWise to make it easy,
Okay,
because
perfect.
I have both of those. So
Yeah,
I
exactly.
can
So
better.
yeah, so in HubSpot, you work the lead, you send them the marketing materials, you get them in through your groups and all that stuff. You just do your nurturing, right? Your
Yep.
nurturing of marketing. What we do, a flow that works quite well, is to send that when that lead is qualified, market qualified.
Mm-hmm.
They have the number of users, they're in the IT space, for us. And in local markets, number of computers, number of employees, those type of things. And it's we like to go in certain verticals as well.
Mm-hmm.
When they raise those hands and market qualified, you send it over into the ConnectWise world for the sales team to work on.
Okay.
So the sales team then does pick it up through an opportunity inside ConnectWise. They create their activities within ConnectWise, and then they start working the opportunity within the ConnectWise. So marketing team is one system, sales is another. So that's just pretty defined line, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to make sure your sales process and marketing processes have that cut point. And so we call those a triage call or a discovery call, is when it gets sent across into our platform, the ConnectWise platform.
Mm-hmm.
Then we basically generate the proposals because we have ConnectWise Sell. Generate the proposals, it updates the opportunity forecasting, then that does send information back over into HubSpot world. Now there's two philosophies of thinking here.
Okay.
And they're both good, but I feel HubSpot's easier even for follow-ups. I feel HubSpot's easier for doing that sales management inside HubSpot world rather than ConnectWise world. So I just use ConnectWise to generate that quote, send it out to the client, and then transfer my forecast information back into HubSpot, and then I just work the deal directly from HubSpot. It's sequences, automated sequences. I mean, I have a team dedicated to HubSpot, right? So that's kind of the overall workflow. Now, when the deal gets won, opportunity, I should say, gets won, obviously you're going to do the conversion with ConnectWise Sell directly into a sales order if you're doing some products or procurement things, and then into service delivery, those type of things.
Okay. So it's a very interesting ping pong. I've heard different people shift their data at different times, right? So I was very curious when you have that demarcation point set between system A and system B, right?
Yep.
I guess it really all depends if you do quoting on the right versus the left, right? Because the HubSpots, the Salesforces, like those types of systems aren't just, can do quoting, right? You could do proposals out of their systems. So it really depends on where your tools line up on each side of that line in the sand kind of thing.
Exactly right. And so I know that I could do all my quoting directly out of HubSpot, but I don't. Reason number one is one of our philosophies is use what our people people we coach on, what they use. So we force ourselves to use ConnectWise Sell. Now I don't have to, but it integrates for our clients. It integrates into distributors. It pulls the data, it pulls the pricing and electronic ordering, all that stuff. They need that, right? And so it's that you still have that trigger back into the HubSpot is after the deal, and it's based on your sales stage. So one is discovery session, triage discovery session. The next one is after the proposal has been delivered to the client. That's when it triggers back into the HubSpot system, where then it updates it and you can start doing your automated things.
Okay, so let me go the other side now, because we went sales marketing this way, right, into service delivery. What happens when you have existing customers who then need to be consistently communicated with or marketed to? Are you then pulling that data back in from a marketing standpoint, from an existing customer standpoint, into HubSpot in this case, to do things like newsletters or updates or whatever it is?
Yes. So I feel like this is a HubSpot call.
No, I'm just asking because it's very topical, right? Because we
It
know
is.
that PSA only goes so far. I'm using this case
Yeah.
because like I said, I'm using both. Been using ConnectWise since 2010. Been using HubSpot since about 2016.
Yep.
I've run into many people with different cogs in these two situations, right? Flip the names out.
Yeah.
But the workflow seems to be the thing that's common, right?
Yeah, it is absolutely. So yeah, I mean, we do implement HubSpot. We do coach our clients and so forth. We are gold partners of HubSpot, and so it's an amazing platform. Now, the flow back from service for your service clients, your customers or clients, that data, depending on I'll speak in the ConnectWise world, you do have types of contacts and types of companies.
Yep.
Those we trigger into sync into certain customer subsets within HubSpot. So then I know, here's my customer list. Here's my, prospect list, my hot 100 or top 100, whatever you guys want to call it. And then here's my leads, right? So we do segment those various different things. Now, the only thing that lives within the ConnectWise database is clients and prospects only. Prospects are defined to customers that have a willingness to want a quote, and we send a quote to.
Got it. So people who you haven't actually done some sort of discovery and actually are at a point where you're giving them pricing, don't ever make it into that system.
They never make it into that system because they're simply just still being nurtured.
Got it.
So I try to keep my client database pristine as possible. So, because you can have, man, we get tons of leads and it's a lot of spam and just yeah. So
okay.
Yeah, and so then you can do all your marketing automation once we do that trigger back, and we build out those custom fields within HubSpot on those contacts. So then we know we can easily segment our lists, and then we create those segmented lists, and then we market to those lists.
So just to recap before we move on to the next topic, sales marketing goes this way. Once they get to the point where they're quoted, you're quoting them over here, right, in the PSA quotation tool. And then after that quotation's done, you're actually driving that close on the HubSpot side for pipeline management, forecasting, sales team, and then like service delivery and projects and tickets kick off over back into the CRM. So it's like a zigzag, right?
Exactly.
And then on the customer side, they're already over here, right? Whether they were there before HubSpot or not, you're pulling that data in over here so that you can do existing customer follow-up, making sure that they're getting the latest information, newsletters, stuff like that. So, okay, that's good to know. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have run down this road, successfully or unsuccessfully. I thought it was worthwhile to ask. Okay, so I feel like one of the main challenges I hear from people is that they never get more than, and maybe you'll give me a different percentage. They never get more than 20% of what the tool is supposed to do out of their system, right? Whether it's an Autotask, a Kaseya, or ConnectWise, whatever it is. So I'm curious, with your experience and the people that you're working with, when people first engage you, what's that percentage like? Is it single digits? Is it 50%? What does it look like?
I want to say probably about the 20% is pretty common. It is, I want to say probably 30-40% of our clientele says they only about 20% is they're using. It's literally ticketing. I want to say probably 80, maybe 90% don't have sales module built out, right? They don't have their sales process. It's the last thing they ever think about. It's like one of the most important things to think about, right? And that's
how many people don't even do billing out of the system?
That's a much smaller percentage. That's I want to say probably 60%. We see about 60-70% do billing out of ConnectWise.
Okay.
Cool. So.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, but when to get to that 20%, here's the thing, and it's kind of, they don't know what they don't know. They don't know, they don't spend enough time on the tool to learn about it. Yes, they're sent to chat support and they're sent off to some link on the web or their own, knowledge base. They don't ask the questions in, a peer group forum or, they don't, they're just using it as ticketing. The thing is just ticketing. And rather than thinking about the tool and every facet of what that tool can do for your business, let's get it from that 20% usability to let's try to get it just to 60%, right? Get more things integrated. It's a big step. But you have to educate yourself a lot on what your tool can do.
No, fair. So let me ask this question then. Are the bigger gaps of the non-implemented functions of the system that we already said sales, got it. We talked to accounting already. Okay. Is it workflow? Is it process automation? Is it customer interaction? Like where are the rest of the missing gaps that keep that percentage low then?
The missing gaps is standard operating procedures, processes, and workflow.
Mm.
This is one area where techs just do the tech work without documenting, what does that process look like? What does the customer experience look like?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it's like, people are like mind blown when I go coach them on a sales process. It's like, oh my gosh, that makes perfect sense. If you just write it out, document it, and follow it. And it's very simple. I mean, it's connecting the dots between the business processes and the technical tool is very difficult. We see that to be very difficult in this space.
Mm.
So
So let's zoom out a little bit, right? For the larger guys out there. Let's say I decide to merge with somebody else. Let's say I acquire somebody else. What are the challenges in getting that data mashed together? Or do I just keep running these separate systems, and just don't deal with it? What does that look like?
well, we do this quite often. I am actually on a board of directors for a large company that does this acquisition, and we they have the ConnectWise as their main platform, and all these other acquisitions they do 10 a year. Um, we have to basically do a tool set analysis, tool stack analysis, which would say, hey, what tool stack do they have? Okay, what's critical data? And how are we going to fit that in their business? But then more than just that data technical, because that's immediately where people run to. Okay, I'm gonna match this field with this field, and okay, I'm just gonna do that simple import. We talked about the business processes. Okay, now that we need to make sure they understand the ConnectWise or whatever other tool that they're kind of merging into. It's really, really like important to take a step back and document the processes that you're doing today. We call it a fit to business process, where we fit the tool to the business. It's pretty straightforward fit to business process. And then we also, for larger clients, we have a steering committee. We have a committee that is a champion of sales, this champion for service, a champion for finance. And you can have subsets of those, like a project champion that knows their area and should know their business processes. Because once again, you're talking about larger organizations. So we establish those steering committees or those committees, and that helps with the integration process, right? But we have to make sure the process is documented, make sure it aligns, and all that stuff. So
how often do you find that these entities that are coming together are on completely opposite tools, right? Well, let's say I'm on Autotask, you're on ConnectWise. Let's say this other guy's on ServiceNow. Let's say this other guy's using Ninja, you're using ConnectWise Automate, I'm using Data RMM, right? Like there's a lot of overlap in these categories.
there is. And so what we do in those instances, the data is actually pretty easy. So every tool has developed an import or export tool. Right? So Autotask has an importer for ConnectWise for people who want to switch back and forth. We see it all day long. It's like, it's crazy. For every one that switches, I got another one that comes in. So and that's great that they have that, because that takes the technical aspects out of it, right? It is then a focus on, hey, I'm pretending like that new client that they just acquired is now a brand new MSP business that just got this new tool. And so it's just a new implementation at that point. Training, teaching, educating. Now there's some terminology that might be a little bit different. There's some utilization calculations that might be different for managers. And that's what that fit to business does. Like, hey, processes are usually pretty similar across. There might be some nuances for how, sales specifically, and service as well. but that's what that fit to business does. Hopefully I answered your question.
No, I mean, so yeah. How often do you see these tools running in parallel for a while, right? Like, let's say you're running multiple agents on machines, or you're running multiple, like, it takes time to bring everything together, right? So they got to be running in parallel of some sort.
They do. And so we have a process where we actually have a training database set up to run parallel, where we import data into that, and then we're able to train and go through situations, scenarios, if you will. And when we do that, we try to limit the amount of running tools simultaneously, because it is very cumbersome for the user, right? So we try to only have that maybe like a week or less. Like, it's a very short window. And it's usually like our go live date, usually a week prior to our go live date. People are kind of using those. Now, depending on the amount of time we do in our fit to business and our conference, what we call a conference room pilot, where here's the scenarios, do you guys understand them? And they literally, users that have not been in our training test our documentation, and they run through the documentation. And if they're able to pass, then it's like, hey, yes, we can set our go live date now.
Interesting. So. All right, let me pivot to another topic now. Do you believe in the role of the dispatcher, or is that old school and you can have the system automatically dish these tickets out?
The model of a dispatcher? Well, absolutely. I believe that there is still a role of a dispatcher, because that keeps some accountability from a time entry, perspective, from getting the clients, quickly taken care of. Now, dispatcher could also be that initial person that takes that call, right? And triages it, the ticket, and documents the ticket, and then escalates it to a engineer. I personally, I like that dispatcher role. Now, there's obviously the service operations, and depending on the size of the organization, you have directors and those type of things, project managers. But dispatcher, I like it. I mean, that's my opinion. So,
but is there a way to automate the tools? If maybe you're too small for dispatcher, maybe it just, you haven't gotten to that point where there's critical mass. Like, I feel like there's a lot of stagnation where information enters the system and it doesn't get to the right place fast enough.
There is a lot of automation you could do with that, but it also takes a lot of time investing in the tool to make sure that you third-party tools that can basically email parse things out of the email, so it categorizes the ticket appropriately, assign auto templates to it, those type of things. Once again, it's training your clients too. They can go into a customer portal rather than emailing in. There's awesome tools out there. I don't know, help desk buttons. You press a little button on a thing, it pops up on the screen, and it just auto captures everything. It comes from the computer, and it's auto associated. So tools like that have made it a lot easier to auto create those tickets and start dispatching it, because you can see where those tickets come from. So if you have a domain, oh, this is, I'll say George's client. So send the ticket off to George, and George is going to get it self-dispatch. There's also the amazing thing with TimeZest. We love that tool as well.
You just had Jameson on, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so Jameson's been on here, I think, and love that tool. It's really fantastic. So self-scheduling, getting clients to self-schedule is really awesome. So if we can get the right resource assigned to the ticket, and then get that ticket notified out there to a client, and the clients can self-schedule, then that'd be awesome.
No, totally get it. So what is your opinion? Sorry, my phone is
because they want you in that bus. It's 10:40. They're like,
yeah,
you gotta leave, George.
No. So what is your opinion on the client portal? I feel like for years it was, hey, convince your customers not to send an email so that you can get more granular information. You can have them send screenshots. You can ask them questions in forms, stuff like that. I feel like it never got adoption past a certain point. I know that there's multiple tools out there, right? Different people have reinvented that a couple times. Where do you think the state of that is right now?
The state of the portal?
Yeah.
I think it's more critical now to have that once again, the lack of customer education, client education is the differentiator. I have clients who do like 80% of the work or through the portal.
Wow, I've never heard of it.
And it's the client education. Hey, log on the portal, approve these tickets, approve this work job. I mean, majority of our team, by the way, on our marketing services that we do, it's done through our customer portal, approving requests. We do that all. Now, we trained our clients that way. We spent the time to do that. And so we thought out every step of our process, that experience we want for the client. There's obviously, with the specifically ConnectWise portal, there's some things that are lacking in it, and we understand that. And so we're looking for those gaps to plug it. With the latest version, they did plug a lot of those gaps. But there's also third-party tools that it's like amazing. And it's just, it doesn't matter. If you're not going to spend some time doing account management or client success work, you're never going to get the success from the customer facing tools unless you start working with your clients to do that, to teach them.
Let's do a little bit of a hot fire. I'm going to start giving you categories, and I'd love to hear what your most popular tool or your favorite tool to fix that category. How about that?
Okay, we can do that.
All right. Password management.
IT glue.
Okay. I assume that documentation would also be the same.
That would be within that, yes.
Okay. Client portal other than the built-in portal.
Oh my gosh, I just drew a blank on it. I knew you were going to ask that question. Oh, it's let me look here. Give me 1 second here.
He's filtering. He's filtering.
It's something new. It's something relatively new. Starts with a C, I believe.
Cloud Radio?
Yes, Cloud Radio. So yeah, we don't use it because we're not a tech business, but that's one we do implement. My team implements. So
okay. Office 365 billing.
I'm gonna get slaughtered for this one, but PAX 8, it's the go-to.
Okay, very good. PAX 8. Who's on the bus today? Which is very good. I'll tell Ken. What about security tools, antivirus?
Wow, I haven't touched this area in a long time, so you're putting me on the spot here. I would say WebRoot, but that's just because it's the go-to for automate. So
I got it. DNS or content filtering?
Content filtering, DNS, OpenDNS.
Okay, Cisco product.
Yep.
Multi or two-factor authentication?
There's so many. Wow. Like obviously, I think in the ConnectWise world, and you give me some technical. I have a team for this, but obviously, Google Authenticator with Azure is what our go-to. So whatever tools, because we're paying for Office 365.
Yeah, no, I get it.
So there's the duos out there. There's and it's like it's just those are too complicated. I like simple. You're already paying for another tool, so utilize it. So why go pay for Duo? But,
okay. I mean, some people love Duo, but I get what you're saying.
I know it's a very popular tool.
What about
chat?
Okay, you can talk about chat. Let's hear it.
Chat Genie.
I feel like that's a Swiss Army knife because everybody uses 80 things for it.
Yeah, obviously Teams integrated with Chat Genie, which integrates in with ConnectWise and so forth. Okay. So we do like that. And then
that you're talking about chat from a internal collaboration
tool. Collaboration, but also managing text and with the tool integrated from ConnectWise to just chatting with the bot.
What about website chat?
Yeah, website chat. We use HubSpot, so
same.
Yeah.
Whatever. Okay. Data syncing, right? I'm sure there's 1,000 answers to this, right? But we brought up the topic of multiple systems talking to each other. Is there a preferred tool?
Data syncing?
Yeah.
Well,
between systems, right? Like
between
we said,
systems,
HubSpot, CW, for
well, there's
example.
kind of only one right now that does it amazingly well, and it's Bedrock Data. Is that like the service? Is that what you're
Okay.
looking for?
Well, I mean, listen, I'm just throwing out scenarios.
Or are you talking like syncing like configurations and all
All
this
right.
other
Let's
stuff?
go that
Or
way. What
well, I
about?
mean, well, it's where it's like, well, what sync are you talking about? Because I know like Pax 8 syncing with the agreements, it's like that's Office 365. Automate, I don't know. I mean, that does syncing within itself. So I don't know. I mean, then there's the data for sales side of things. It's Bedrock Data is our
Okay.
source. I know that you've probably heard PySync and
Yep. I have. Yeah.
yeah, and so
There's
that's
a
just a
lot of
little
them
bit
out there.
more. It's cheaper, but you can't sync your dollar values for opportunities and deals and all that stuff. So
Okay. Dashboard and reporting.
couple great tools out there. BrightGauge is probably one of the top ones that I would go to, just because it was just acquired by ConnectWise and I'm a consultant of it. But I do like, there's the aspect of like captain's chair, and you could also talk about the portal that I'm drawing a blank on the portal again.
Cloud rating.
Cloud Radial, which is that's another dashboarding. I mean, you get some aspects of it in there. But I still go to, because we're Traction EOS, and use BrightGauge for that.
Okay. What about generating quarterly business review type documentation?
Whew. Strategy Overview, I think, is the company that is our go-to. I don't know if you guys heard that.
I've never heard of that one. That's what I'm learning here. I'm asking questions.
Yep, strategy Overview, I believe it is.
Okay, good to know. What about quotation outside of the platform quotation? So obviously said ConnectWise sell. You're a big ConnectWise guy. If you weren't going to do that, what would it be?
Outside. Ooh, depends on what country you're in, right? So I know, like, if I was in Australia, New Zealand, there's a great company out there called Glue.
Yeah.
And
I think Data just acquired them.
Did they?
They did, yeah.
News to me.
Okay.
Then it depends on your size. Once again, smaller companies, I typically point towards QuoteWorks for the go-to quoting tool. But if you didn't have to have anything integrated with distributors and vendors outside ConnectWise Sell, because personally,
no, I got it. Yeah.
There's the Proposify, which I believe is integrated in with HubSpot. Sorry, now I got vacuums in.
Okay, no worries. What about e-signature, right? That it's like a DocuSign type solution.
Adobe Sign.
Okay.
But once again, I don't really deal with that because it's all done inside ConnectWise Sell.
Got it. No, it's okay. I'm just throwing, like, everybody's on a different tool set, right?
Yeah.
Mobile device management.
Ooh. I personally have never dealt with that, so I don't know. That one is
all right. It's okay.
Over my head.
All right, if you don't have the answer, I'm sure that everybody, you have your niche, right?
It's all good.
Okay. Favorite. So outside of all the stuff we just talked about, obviously you've mentioned Connect Booster, so payment processing. I just checked that box, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be your answer already because you gave it. What other tools am I missing? Like, we've covered like 10 categories right now. Outside of those categories, what are the tools that are constantly coming up at the top of the list that I'm missing?
Well, you didn't. I mean, I'm biased, but RMM tool, like, that's obviously Automate, is that one.
I figured that was going to be your answer.
Let's see, backups, BDR appliances.
Okay.
So there's the physical, right? So I do like Datto because it's simple, easy pricing. But if you're looking for more of the virtual Veeam stuff,
okay.
Once again, this is some technical aspects are over my head at this point because
since you're on backup, what about SaaS backup, right? Like Office 365 backup, Google Apps backup, that kind of thing.
I believe like our big thing for archiving, Mimecast is our huge spam, all that and I think they do the archiving, and yeah, I think that does all that backup stuff as well. So I think so. But Mimecast we love Mimecast, so we've tried a couple of them.
That's good. What else? What other tools are out there that are very hot or topical right now?
The typical right now, the syncing tool. I'm not sure how much I can speak to it. Connect Booster has a syncing tool. Love that. There's also the Mobius syncing tool as well. So those two are pretty popular.
Okay, good to know. What else? Are you out of the trade show floor already?
I mean, somebody's wearing a blue shirt.
Don't worry about me.
Phone systems?
Hey, this isn't a.
Are we gonna go B-Boy or what?
No, hey, listen. It's not about B-Boy today. So, what's your best advice on negotiating price? I mean, I think that's a constant struggle when you're going to do the buy. What have you seen are the best way to get through that conversation? Where it's a win-win on the other side.
Yeah. So negotiating price with the vendors for the new software,
yep.
The tool.
Yep.
And that's where I am the worst person to talk to about that, because I look at the business problem I solve and I look at the ROI based on that. And and so it doesn't, so you could literally sell me an endpoint, for $100. I'm going to figure out how to make it work and make profit and sell it. So, that's, I mean, I couldn't imagine the bills that I'll just like, we negotiate a little bit on, like, I'll say HubSpot. We negotiate a little bit on HubSpot. Wish I would have done more negotiations at that point, but hindsight, at the end of the day, I know what my bill is, and it's a big bill. Annually, it's like a pretty sizable deal. It's like a whole entire employee plus some. But number of contacts, it depends on your size, but obviously as you get larger, you have the quantity. That's really big to negotiate on. So for HubSpot, I wish I would have negotiated more of my contacts initially, because they bill on contacts. So as my marketing leads grow, so does my cost.
Start to add that monthly bill up right away. Think about your best advice that you give out commonly to people that are coming to you, right? Saying that, hey, it's a mess. I need help. What are like the top one or two things that you tell people to help them be successful coming out the other side?
The biggest thing is a lot of what we deal with is they're inside the problem. They're just so caught up in the minutiae of every little detail. Stop, take a breath. It's not that urgent. Take a step back from the situation, and we have to evaluate it. Where do you stand today? What are the results you're looking for, right? And then when you see where those we can see where those two endpoints are, you can create that path, and that's really, really critical. So that's what we do during every client that comes through us. We do an evaluation, an assessment for every aspect of the business, and it's pretty like, hey, how much do you know? What are your processes in this? What is it documented? Those type of things. So my advice is get out of that problem and actually spend time to focus on it. Dedicated time focusing on it, right? Too often, and I just had this talk literally yesterday, it happens every day, that working with other business leaders that are like, I'm so busy with customer work that I don't have enough time working on my own business, right? You're never going to end that cycle until you stop working on those technical things and let those balls drop. Let them drop. There's so many people are like, I can't, it's got to be perfect. I can't, and it's like, you just have to let go sometimes. And it's the fear of letting go and taking that step back you can't do that unless you start reevaluating those details.
That's good advice. The whole need to work on your business instead of in your business.
For sure. Exactly. Yeah.
When do you tell a customer that it's not a good fit we should part ways? When's that red flag go up for you? I mean, obviously your customers are MSPs, so I'm curious, what are the danger side?
We have 5 core values of our organization, quality relationships, process obsessed, results driven, respect for one another, and shared success. And if we're not succeeding together, or they don't have willingness to have that quality relationship or that respect enough to have those difficult conversations, some people just don't they don't make assumptions. I mean, they make assumptions and they don't just talk and ask. We want to build those quality relationships. Dude, if I have a problem, I want to know about it. And if I don't like something, I want to tell you about it. And by having that, and if we have customers that are like that, they can't get past that point, we do let them go. Because at the end of the day, if you can't have quality relationship, you don't have respect for one another, it is really difficult to have shared success. That you feel like you're successful, we feel like we're successful. It's hard. So you look at our website, every one of our team members knows those by heart. And that's, at the end of the day, we're also results driven, right? And so to be shared success, we have to have those results for our clients.
No, fair enough. I got one question that came through, and we'll probably end on this thought.
Okay.
Is it better to come into a client who has absolutely nothing, or is it better to go into a client who has a lot of processes that are already in place and they need to go through a review?
Well, I like both clients. So it's depending. Once again, it depends on size. If you're small, we typically, build those processes out from scratch, right? If you're larger, obviously those are well versed in like the 100 staff members you have, or 50 even. And so from those two different angles, obviously, coaching, we love coaching when you already have established processes, because it's just enhancing. It's version 2.0 of your business, and because they already have a sense of processes to a degree. So that's our preference, rather than, starting. I mean, we will start fresh and implement things. That's obviously what we do. But if you have in your mind that's really important, you have already established processes, it makes it a lot easier.
Okay. Well, it's good to know from both sides. Adam, where do people find you?
I am also known as the ConnectWise boss. Ooh, wrong way. The CW Boss. So if you go to cwboss.com, you can join our Facebook group, share information in there. There's over 1,100 people in that group. But also you can go to crpacificconsulting.com. Check us out. We ConnectWise consultants, service operations, executive coaching, marketing, and accounting services. So
cool.
All right.
Thanks everyone for watching. This session was recorded. We'll have this online at mspinitiative.com. Make sure to follow us online Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1 o'clock Eastern time, where we continue bringing people in from around the industry to kind of zoom out and, think about what makes sense and what doesn't. And then, for the next 3 weeks or so, follow our Channel Strong tour. We have 7 vendors on the road, and we're going to 15 cities over 3 weeks. We were in Chicago yesterday and Kansas City today. So you'll see we're meeting with MSPs locally, outside, following all the rules, but just trying to bring a little bit of community together. Follow us online. Adam, stay in touch. Everyone, see you next this upcoming Thursday, 1 o'clock.
Peace out. Thank you, guys.